So I'm gonna go this whole entire like thing same. Wait, let me leave and come back. I'll have to leave and come back. Oh wait, no, there we are. Okay, you hear me now? Okay, good, good. So, you missed my entire spiel about talking about Elon and Trump's little feud. Okay, yeah. So I just had to plug it up, like turn it off, turn it back on. I just unplugged it and replugged it. All right. So, uh, do I need to really revisit the whole Elon and Trump feud? I don't know. End of tech difficulties. Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, chat, for helping me with my tech issues. That's all I have is issues now. So, as I was saying, there's been a lot that's gone on since my last stream. I don't stream very often, so this big gap between my streams, like there's always going to something that's going down, but like huge things have gone on since my last stream. Like Trump and Elon, they battled it out. It was just like a flame war, old school troll flame war going on. But it was funny. It was like between two cross platforms, like between Truth Social and between X. And if you were on X the whole time when it was going down, it was just like, whoa, like just kind of waiting on Elon's tweets. I actually have notifications on for Elon. And yeah, he really threw that curveball in there saying that Trump was in the Epstein files, which is why they haven't been released. However, everybody knows he's flown on the jet, or Epstein's plane, like 7 times. He's never denied it. And it was kind of more of saying that, but he never said he was a client. People kind of misconstrued that, just because you're in the files doesn't necessarily mean you were a client. The client list is something completely different. So that little curveball in there was it really like shook a lot of people up, because a lot of people were assuming that he was a client. But I don't think he was a client. If Elon even knew any of that, and I doubt he does, or knew anything, then I don't think that he would have his kids around him. So that went down. I wanted to stream that night, but like it's just hard for me sometimes, especially like it's the season where like migraines come, and I know right now I have like a light headache even, but I was just like, you know what, I'm going to stream anyway. Like I haven't streamed in so long. Talk about all this, everything's going on, like LA's burning and there's rockets flying all over the Middle East. So that's one thing I want to talk about too. So there's these protests, or they start as protests, which protesting, it's all fine and good. Yeah, definitely protest. I don't think anybody is against protests. Protest anything. I don't care. But the way certain, I guess, I should flat out call them commies, because, when it comes down to it, they're basically communists that are causing riots and unrest, and they have definitely come out in full force. The poor self-driving cars in LA have been burned, and that was kind of heartbreaking. I just couldn't help but think, like, I saw a meme that said they became sentient right before they were burned. So that was kind of sad for machinery. But yeah, so LA is, it started out as protests, then it turned into riots, and they easily people online, the internet sleuths, have actually found that they're being funded. There has been videos of protective masks being dropped off, bricks being dropped off, and lots of different gear, like to riot in the street. So it's definitely coordinated. It may not have maybe popped off that way, and all it was because it was due to some ICE raids. And LA has a huge Latino population. Like, it's just a given. But there's a lot of illegal migrants in LA. I heard that the statistic is like 1 in 10 in Los Angeles is actually undocumented. So uh, that's population to try to call. And this whole thing started with ICE raids. It was protests, turned into riots, and then then you start seeing all this, like, people being paid. Some there, I haven't seen it verified, but there was a TikTok, a guy saying that he was paid $200 to like riot and break stuff, and then it wasn't until that he was given like fire equipment to start fires where he just kind of was like, what am I doing? So if it's true, I'm glad he had a conscience, because here's the thing. Protesting, like I said, I don't think anybody's against protesting. But when it comes to a riot, and this is probably going to get me on a list, if I'm not already on a list. When it comes to things like riots, if you're burning and looting private businesses, private property that belongs to other citizens, like, I am 110% against that. But if you're kind of like fighting actual tyranny and government issues, like, go after the government buildings. That would be like the common sense thing. If you're going to actually protest the government, you go after the government. And that is like the only thing I will say. Like I said, I'm probably going to get on a list for this. That's the one thing I will say. The difference between these LA riots and J6 is that J6, they went straight to the Capitol, and they were at the Capitol, doing it all at the Capitol. Like, they brought their grievances straight to the government themselves. Whereas in LA, they're burning the poor, automated self-driving cars, and looting businesses. That, I don't know how you're going to try to cause change with your government by damaging private property. If anything, that's going to get people against your cause. And I've heard that there's people in LA and California that really aren't on board with all this that's going on. So I really hope, if it's not under control now, I do hope they get it under control, because there's definitely a lot of opportunists. A lot of people, when they loot, they're just opportunists. They see that there's unrest going on, people breaking windows, so like, okay, I'll just go in and grab something. And that's no bueno to me, because it's private property. I don't care if it's a big corporation, somebody still ends up paying for it, and it's not the person taking it, obviously. So, to add on to that, tomorrow is supposed to be Trump's big military parade. For the birthday of the U.S. Army, 250 years, which is cool. That is the oldest military, well, Army and Navy, but I think the Army is probably the oldest one. Not probably, it is. But he's going to have a military parade tomorrow on the 14th. There's also going to be protests and demonstrations all over major cities across the country. Can't say no bueno, it's cultural appropriation. I am Latina. I can say whatever I want, and I'm American. I can say whatever I want as well. So that'd be cultural. But anyway, regardless, if it was, I'm Latina, so whatever. Anyway, all right, so these protests are going to be going on like across country, big major cities and such. And what it is called the No Kings protest, which I think is silly. These people, which is going to be the political left right now, like the progressives and whatnot, they are protesting Trump, saying no kings. Okay, now I know Trump is not a bastion of liberty, but do they forget what all their side of the aisle did, like in like 2020 and such? Even after that, Like, they're the party of censorship. They're the party of ratting out your neighbors during COVID for having too many people over, or having anybody over, for ratting out people for not wearing masks. But yet they want to say no kings when they were they're the biggest authoritarians we've probably ever seen amongst our citizens. It would, like, at once in my lifetime. Definitely, I have not seen such pro-authoritarianism in my lifetime among American citizens. It was disgusting. It was disgusting on so many different levels, and they now want to paint Trump as some dictator, as some king. And one reason why is because he's enforcing immigration laws. Like, laws are laws. I'm not saying that just because it's a law means it's good. Okay, because there's some laws that I'm just like, it's stupid. Like, we would be better off if that wasn't a law. However, immigration laws have been there for quite some time. Obama enforced the immigration laws. I will even say, like, Obama deported my cousin. So I don't know what they're really trying to get. The thing is that anybody could have done it. Any prior president actually did do it, but because it's Trump, it's an issue. Like, I get not liking everything Trump does, because I don't like everything Trump does. I would not consider myself a Trumper at all. I do like some things he's done. He freed Ross, which is like probably the best thing he's done. But like, just because you don't like the guy doesn't mean like he's a dictator or a king. And this no kings thing. Okay, so here's the kicker with that. This no kings protests that are planned all across the country. There's flyers that are going out, and the name of the flyer is one of the Waltons. Y'all know who the Waltons are. If you have a Walmart, you ever heard of Walmart? And I know you've heard of Walmart. If you haven't heard of Walmart, get out of the house, go touch grass. But one of the Waltons is actually sponsoring this protest. And it's kind of funny that people, especially like on the left, talk about like living wages and such, and Walmart's like one of the worst of them, apparently, because they have, I guess, the most people on additional assistance that are also employed by Walmart. Granted, they are a huge employer, but anyway, I digress. They're sponsoring this whole thing, and of course, all these people that normally are against Walmart and billionaires and big corporations, yeah, they're going along with it because it's anti-Trump. But there's a lot of motives a Walton can have to be anti-Trump. And it's not for the same motives that the people who are going along with these protests are going for. Because remember the Chinese tariffs, or the China tariffs, or the tariffs against China, whatever. And Trump even not tweeted, he truthed that Walmart just needed it to eat the difference, eat the tariffs. Because most of the stuff sold at Walmart is made in China. So, yeah. So, that's definitely a motive to try to ruin Trump, to try to, hit his approval ratings and protest against him. However, what the people who are going against it, actually doing the protesting are against, his approval rating is actually up for that, which is enforcing immigration. So I just think it's kind of funny. They're using these people to protest Trump, but they have completely ulterior motives. And it's kind of funny to see. You heard the term useful idiots, and these people are going to riot. They're going to get in trouble. They're going to be attacking federal agents. They're going to lose their Second Amendment rights and their rights to vote and everything else, which I have my own feelings about those laws. But they're basically going to go in and ruin their lives on account of, they want to get Orange Man bad, and they're getting paid $200 to do so. Is $200 really worth getting a record like that? So yeah. billionaires are bad. There should be no billionaires, but let's do this protest that this billionaire is throwing. Yeah, like they say protests. They're going to get out of control because there has been some theories about bulk orders of riot gear dropped off that are available at Walmart. So it's just really hilarious. Or this whole, not I want to say hilarious. In a way, it is. It's a huge clown world scenario because there's so many different connections where you can follow money with these riots, and one kicker. I can't think of I should have written down their acronym or what it stands for. But one of the funders of all this is that their acronym is PSL, and I'm super basic. I was like, no, not the PSL. No, don't take the acronym. That's my pumpkin spice latte. But they're one of the funders, and there's also ties to the CCP funding these riots as well. So, as everybody's been saying, they're not organic. They're absolutely not organic. And if anybody thinks that they're going to sway public opinion, if anything, it's just going to be like really good ads for the Republicans. That's all it's going to be. Because come election time for the midterms, that's going to be great. Just take clips from LA's, riots and just broadcast them like this is what the Democrats do. And because none of them have denounced it. None of them. In fact, they're making scenes for themselves. Senator Padilla went into Kristi Noem's news conference, causing a scene. And then he cries about being dragged out. Like, what do you expect? You go into a news conference, where the Secretary of Homeland Security is there, try to give a speech, and you cause a scene and try to get up to the point. Like, do you think it's going to happen? Like, they really think they're above the law, because if any citizen went up there, they'd be dragged out too. They would have been like thrown to the ground and handcuffed. And then all these Democrats want to march on about this and like try to Kristi Noem needs to be removed. No, remove the senator that caused a scene. Are you kidding me? Like, he needs to get some, whatever they do to discipline the senators. But he went up there and caused a scene at the podium or whatever, try to just crash Kristi Noem's press conference. Like, really? No accountability. Absolutely zero accountability. And it's not only disgusting. It's hilarious. It's like they don't want to work. They just want to yell "Orange Man bad" and cause scenes, try to get viral, just to try to sway, opinion about them, because we all know the Democrat approval rating is in the garbage. It is the worst. I have goodness gracious, I think root canals have better approval ratings than the Democrat Party right now. Yeah. It's theater. Yeah, I heard a commentator say that Democrats really are a party of theater kids. No offense to theater kids. I was actually a little bit of a theater kid. But yeah, it really is all theater. And they just are really trying to get their viral moment. They really are. And it's pitiful. It's like, can you just work? Can you just do your jobs? If your ideas really were better than Trump's, then put them in action. Propose actual good bills. You're not doing anything, of note whatsoever. Calling it now, the Dems are going to run Newsom, Padilla. If they do, that is going to be a terrible, a terrible pairing, because Newsom is terrible already. He dragged his feet or didn't do anything about LA, because their mayor wasn't doing anything. But not only that, he's been recalled. He didn't get fully recalled. The votes didn't go through, but California has recalled him, I think at least once, because he's a crap governor. So I think if they try to run Newsom, I think it would be a huge mistake. If anything, I would think they would try to run maybe not AOC. I could see them running Buttigieg. I really could. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So the riots thing's been weird. Okay, so that's not all that's happened. But that I can go on and on about the riots because it's just so crazy because so many people have followed the money on the riots, and it's not good. Like, you got these billionaires behind it, but then you have the crowd that is like, billionaires should not exist, doing the work of these billionaires, and it's just so funny. It's just like the crowd with the cognitive dissonance that is just through the roof. So, let's see. Between Newsom and Padilla, or Big Booty Latina and Bernie, who do you prefer? I think AOC and Bernie would be a better ticket, not for them to win, but because of the memes, it would be better. Because they're both a couple of democratic socialists, and that would be just grand. All right, so we need to take a break from this and visit our sponsor for today's show. It is libertariangoth.com, where you can find the most alt culture geared liberty apparel. Cyberbully the government. That is actually what yours truly is wearing today. The Cyberbully the government shirt. Not the V-cut. I got the regular t-shirt on. But yes, always remember to cyberbully your government. But we got some great things. We got some of the old pinup arts there. Mugs. We got a I Stand With Massey shirt. This is one of my favorites because I stand with Massey. He's an angel. And then not only that, we have the best-selling MAGA hats, but it's not loading. Yes, the best-selling MAGA hats, Make America Goth Again. And then we also got Make America Metal, Punk, and Emo again. So yeah, check those out. And you can use code Liberty, the number 4, and all for 10% off your order. So yeah, give it a try. I wear my hat every day. It is a great hat, and I love it. So, yep. All right, there we go. All right, so the other big thing that's happened, and it started last night. Last night, Israel finally struck Iran. Now, they've been trying to get war with Iran for a long time, and this isn't the first time that they've fired on them. Apparently since like the 90s, I believe, they've been trying to say that Iran's close to a nuclear weapon, and we've had intel agents say yes, we've had intel agents say no. It depends on how much of a war hawk they are. So, anyway, so they took out a lot of important people. Like, it was very strategic, which I'm actually kind of impressed and a bit terrified because they took out some of the top military generals or such in their military, commanders in their military, took out some of their best or top nuclear scientists. So they definitely had people in the in Iran doing spy work, and they did it well because the preciseness is both horrifying and impressive. But after that, of course, Tehran vowed to retaliate, and they did. And last I heard, they were still firing missiles over into Tel Aviv. Now, Israel does have the Iron Dome, and I'm sure the Iron Dome has come in handy through this. there are videos of Tel Aviv, of rockets actually hitting Tel Aviv. And a lot of them are like from balconies and such. And, you watch it and you're just like, I was watching when I was kind of like, where's their Iron Dome? And you can actually see some just, and it's like, they're beautiful launching, but it's like, it's also just like the tragedy of it, because war, like, war is terrible. I don't think anybody thinks war is great. But yeah, so some of the rockets got to their dome, and they were also pretty strategic. I'm actually impressed by this as well. They, as in Iran took out or fired upon the equivalent of Israel's Pentagon. What the Pentagon is to us is what this building is to Israel. They took out that building, that center or whatnot. So on X, they were trying to say that, Israel is using human shields, or like and then they're also saying that Iran was just targeting civilians. I'm not sure if this is going to be unpopular to say, but unfortunately, civilian casualties come anytime in war. It's going to happen, unfortunately. But they were precise in getting that building. They were very precise. Another time where I'm impressed and horrified at that precision. So that retaliation has or is taking place at this time. Now, what I was thinking right when I heard last night that Israel finally moved on Iran was, okay, we need to stay out of this. This is not our thing. This is absolutely not ours. We are 110% not involved, or we shouldn't be involved. Just oust us completely. We don't need another war. We should be ending any wars that we're in. We don't need to be across the globe for conflicts that don't involve us, that don't benefit us. And right after, Secretary Rubio actually came out and said that, we were not involved in this. Apparently, Trump did know about it before it happened. We did evacuate our people from the area, which is great. And then it's also like, are we just saying that we're not in it just to avoid conflict? No, I'm really hoping that we're not. I'm really hoping that we're not going to, be getting into this, but I would not doubt it, because they're using our weapons. Granted, they bought them from us, but so we are indirectly, I guess, in it. But after Iran threatened retaliation, Trump did say that he was going to, protect U.S. and Israeli interests and whatnot. However, he has also warned that they are not to target our troops, which is good, but are we going to listen? Because apparently Tehran is actually, they are lumping us in as being responsible. But the kicker about this, we were supposed to have a discussion or like a summit of sorts on Sunday with Iran about talks. So I just think it's kind of petty to undermine the fact that we were supposed to have these talks on Sunday, and then last night, Israel attacks Tehran. They took out nuclear sites and important people. I get that. I get it. Like, that's, if you have to do something and they're seriously gonna attack you with a nuke, that's what you want to do. However, Sunday was the talks. It's almost like they didn't want to come to talks. Apparently, they had people on, their runways for some time, and there's videos about how, we are being used to help topple a bunch of Middle Eastern countries, and then the last one would be Iran. Now, I'm no fan of Iran. I'm a woman. Like, of course, I'm not a fan of Iran. The way they treat women over there, I think, is abhorrent. They're very much like not as bad as Afghanistan under the Taliban, but it's not great either. So, not a fan of Iran. However, we do not have beef with Iran. Like, what beef does the United States have with Iran? Like, they chant death to America, but not because of anything we are or did necessarily. They started that because we sided with Israel. That's whenever we became, like, got on, like, their list, was then. Because I don't recall anything that we've done to each other. Well, I don't know. Unless you want to count our CIA. Never mind. Scratch all that. Because I know how our intelligence agencies have dipped their hands into everything. So, alright. I digress. But anyway. So, at this point in time, everyone's just kind of hoping that World War III isn't going to pop off. Because Russia and China are both allies of Iran. But they seem kind of unavailable right now. Now, Russia, as everybody knows, Russia is currently dealing with Ukraine. And there's was it Ukraine took out a lot of their planes, like very important target that Ukraine took out. Now, they are trying to, well, I don't know if they actually are trying. I know Trump is trying to get a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia. So they're wrapped up with that. Russia has lost, I think, tens of thousands, even into the hundreds of thousands of troops, or that maybe just the count for the entire both countries. But so Russia has spent so much on Ukraine, with lives, with money, with time, their whole entire military. So they're not really available to help Iran, basically, is what I'm saying. So while Russia, they can talk and they can condemn, but I don't see them stepping in to help Iran, because that they have vested so much into Ukraine. So there goes Russia. Okay. Now, China's probably got like one of the biggest militaries. Like, actually, they do the biggest military in the world because they have a huge population. China is still eyeballing Taiwan. Or, like, I should say, West Taiwan is eyeing Taiwan. Now, things in China are not going very good. The people there's actually been protests there. I don't know if it's quite evolved into riots. Like, their cost of living has, gone to where, nobody's able to own anything anymore, except the really much older people. And it's not going good there. And they're still eyeing Taiwan. And they want to really not mess that up, to drop what they're doing and their issues, inner issues. And, apparently our tariffs actually quite hurt them a bit, which I think Trump was going for. But that also kind of weakens them to not get distracted from their stuff to go deal with Iran. Like, I don't see why they would want to go mess with Iran whenever they have so many issues going on right now. And they're eyeing Taiwan as what they want to, use their military for. Although they haven't made the move yet. But I can almost see that happening if anybody wants to pop off. So Iran is kind of, I would say they're on their own. It sounds like they're going to be on their own. But I really don't want us to get involved. I don't think anybody wants us to get involved. We could do a lot of damage. We're very powerful militarily, but it's not our business. It's not our fight. Making allies can be dangerous at times because you end up having loyalty, or you having to do with loyalty where it's not beneficial. We would end up spending a lot, and what benefit does it do to our countrymen? We have our own issues, major issues. We still have to get a lot of our own stuff down. We still have to work on our inflation and work on our economy and getting everything better. Like, we don't have time or money to go to war. They're trying to increase the debt ceiling right now. We don't have time and we don't have money to go to, period. We don't need to be spending any more lives in the Middle East. That's just it. That entire conflict, it's what to say, not my circus, not my monkeys. So it's just another conflict that I feel like the military industrial complex is going to, try to egg us in there. Like, you have so many representatives in Congress that are like, they're trying to add fuel to the fire. Like, I'm sorry, Lindsey Graham. Like, I know you basically just got off in your own pants at the news of Israel striking Iran, but we don't need another war. We don't. I don't think anybody is going to back this. Like, if you poll the entire country about trying to go to war with Iran, it's going to be like 10% or less. I would even give for people to say, yeah, let's go to war with Iran. And that's being realistic. That's I don't think anybody is pro that, except people in Congress, because people in Congress also have their own military industrial complex, like Halliburton and all of them. Like, they all have their own lobbyists that kickbacks and such. So of course they're for it. Of course, and then they see the military as just like toy soldiers, and it's disgusting. And it's very disrespectful to our military even to try to egg this on, because they're the ones that are going to have to fight, not you. You're going to sit in your comfy little apartment in Washington, D.C. and just pass these votes, pass these laws, while, talking about families being split up. You have the military, and then they have their families, and then something happens to them, unfortunately, because if we send people, stuff's going to go down. It just will. And it's just going to be senseless loss of lives on both sides. And I'm not going to condemn or demonize any side. Loss of life is horrific no matter what. And they're still just trying to egg this on. No one agrees with them. I don't think anybody agrees with them trying to get a war going in Iran. None. Okay, let's see. Heinz Kissinger called the Vietnam soldiers dumb, stupid animals. Well, that doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me at all. And the thing is what's disgusting about war also is that we dehumanize our enemies. And I think that's a problem, to dehumanize your enemies. I know it might make it easier to take care of them, but yeah. But imagine Iran with a nuke, though. Yes, I get that. I understand that. I understand that it probably isn't a good thing for Iran to have a nuke, especially if they're, a hostile country, which they are a hostile country. So it's definitely not something that the world should want. Meanwhile, there's also intelligence saying that they weren't building a nuke. But then there's some intelligence saying that they are. And what's the answer? Because that sounds fishy. Are they or are they not? Okay. Israel has nukes. Yeah, I know that one. I know they have nukes. And I really hope that they do not try to use them, because I think once somebody pulls the trigger or pushes a button for that, I think that's when it's going to start going down. That's whenever it's going to severely escalate, because that's like the last resort. That's the worst case scenario, as we did that twice in World War II, and it basically ended the war, because it was just like the worst blow, no pun intended, that you can do in war. Well, whenever they acknowledge it, let's see, there's one before that. Iran has been building a nuke for 50 years now. Yeah, and I've seen where there have been headlines for such a long time by Israel that Iran is close to a nuke. Yeah, and then yet like the headlines back in the 90s were like Iran is 1 to 2 years away, and we're in 2025 right now, and as far as we know, they don't have one. But they took out their nuclear scientists, which, like I said, strategic, impressive, and horrifying. War is a racket. It absolutely is. It is definitely a racket. And the thing is, that racket it makes so much money, stupid level amount of money, that it's going to continue. George Orwell, that the war was never meant to be won. It was meant to be continuous. I may be messing up that phrase, but that's basically what it is. It's really enriching people, unfortunately, at the cost of human lives. But there's also the whole dispute over land issue, with land expansions and such. That whole area is holy ground for 3 religions. The Abrahamic religions. All 3 of those consider that whole area to be holy ground. You got Judaism, Christianity, and Islam consider that area the Holy Land, and that's a recipe for disaster. And that's basically what's going on. I don't really see the Christians getting into the fight. Now, there were some Christians being genocided in Syria, unfortunately, but nobody really heard about that because it's Christians. But Judaism and Islam are definitely button heads a lot around the Holy Land. Well, Iran has never belonged to Israel. Yeah, I know. But what does that stop from expanding? But they're on the Persian solidarity thing. Yeah. And it was kind of not funny. I don't want to use the word funny. When Trump went to Qatar and he was trying to ask the other countries in the Middle East to help him with Iran. And the thing is that the Arabs and the Persians aren't exactly the best of friends. So it wasn't like they can be call up their homie and be like, hey, if you're building nukes, stop it. if you aren't, then just let in the inspectors, just so that you're not. Yeah, it's not, it was not like that. So that region has, I want to say be disputed, but the whole region has been, a lot of people that don't get along, basically. But the Persians are not the most liked by the Arabs, and that's just like a very long history. Now they are Islamic, just like the other, just like the Arabs, but the Persians are completely different than Arabs, and that's what, in Iran, they're mostly Persians, um, over there. Okay. I saw plenty of the Hassan crew celebrating the Christians being genocide in Syria. That is absolutely disgusting. That is appalling, and anybody who celebrates the death of peoples, period, is a terrible person. An absolutely terrible person. And I hear a lot about this Hassan guy. I don't really know him. I've never really watched his podcast or anything he's done or has, will do, or just any of him. I just know his name, and I know that people hate him. But from what I hear about him, he doesn't sound like he's a very good person. But yeah, the churches in Syria, though. That's one thing about the internet that I love the internet, and sometimes I hate the internet, because there were videos of the Christians in Syria being genocided, and they were extremely disturbing, and I wish I didn't see some of them. But sometimes for some people to realize something is happening, you got to actually watch it. And then there's also AI, but these were definitely not AI, because they looked like they were filmed with a potato. So I'm pretty sure they were real, and they were disturbing. So yeah, but let's see. I mean, that's Hassan. He's a terrorist propagandist. If that's what he is, then why don't he just go put his money where his mouth is, and just get offline, go do his thing, where he's probably gonna get his tail whooped. But yeah, Hassan is Muslim destiny. Well, this is what I don't get, though. If he's, because there's things that clash with the left, and a lot of people, or the left in Islam, just that they don't mesh well. They're very conflicting with their what they value and their ideals and stuff, and especially when it comes to things like LGBTQ. You'll see Pride Month, where the Saudi Arabia BMW won't change, but then the American BMW will be all rainbow and such. So yeah, I just don't get how they can be on the same board on the same side, if that's how they feel about things. But he's also a champagne socialist. He lives in Beverly Hills. You know what? I really wish, and I think it'd be awesome if somebody could fund a show that sends these champagne socialists to actual socialist countries to live like the average person. Especially the commies. Send them to a super communist country to have them live like the average person, and they'll be begging to come back within a week. They will. Because none of these countries have the freedom that they think it will. That's why I don't understand how there's so many people who are alt-cultured and are communists, pro-communist. Because in a society that is in a communist country, okay? If you look at China, for instance, they have social credit scores where you have to, fit a certain thing and do a certain thing. That completely clashes with alternative culture. And so you see all these goths and punks and metalheads and whatnot being commies. Like, it's like, you couldn't be that way. You couldn't really be what you want and like what you want in a communist country. Like, Soviet Russia banned a lot of music, like punk was really banned a lot in Soviet Russia. So you can't do that in like communist countries. It's just so silly. It's so silly, and I got to do like a whole another episode, or actually a regular episode, about alt culture and how many are communist and how it's just very conflicting. And they say it because they think it sounds cool. It's not cool. A big authoritarian government is not cool. There's nothing cool about big government. There's nothing cool about authoritarian government. And the thing is that if you want freedom and individuality, like, the actual best way to go is libertarianism. If you're not like anarchist, but then they get mixed up with anarchy and ANCOM, which ANCOM is like the biggest, like, dumb thing ever. But yeah. Real communism has never been yeah, yeah, it's I'm pretty sure it has, in many different places, but it has failed. Even China is kind of almost going away from it in somewhat, but the people aren't really that happy. Like, if you're Chinese and you go study in the United States, the government will visit you before you go, and you'll have to report all your stuff. You basically have to become a spy for the Chinese government, the CCP, if you're Chinese and you come to the United States for college. It's like required there. So what freedom is that? You can't even leave the country and be free because you're from a communist country. There's nothing good about communism at all, and I could go on and on about the horrors of communism. Not only that, like, they'll say like, oh, capitalism killed hundreds of thousands of people. Communism killed a lot more people, like, in a shorter amount of time. Capitalism, like, they don't understand true capitalism. They're thinking crony capitalism. They're thinking like all of the bad stuff, like the corrupt stuff, which it's not. Like, capitalism in its true form is like, I provide a service and you pay me for it. Or goods or services and you pay me for it, and that's capitalism in its bare form. OnlyFans is a form of capitalism. It's like one of the most purest forms of capitalism. Anyway, I can go, like I said, I can go on and on about how much I hate communism and how it is totally antithetical to alternative culture, and it's just silly how there's so many alt-cultured commies out there. They think it's edgy. It's not edgy. It's not edgy at all. There's nothing edgy about communism. It is a terrible ideology. You should look at the hammer and sickle flag with the same disdain as the Nazi flag. Like, they're terrible. Anyway, I've been talking for like an hour. My throat's dry. All right, so anyway, we're coming up on an hour now. And, there's been a lot to talk about. There's still a lot to talk about. I don't even think I went over everything. But there's so much going on. Tomorrow, if you're in a city where there's supposed to be one of those No Kings rallies, please stay safe. Ideally, stay in. If you have a carry to protect yourself. And don't go routes where there would be, crowds and protesters, because they're trying to make this civil unrest. They say it's going to be peaceful. It's not going to be peaceful. We already know it's not going to be peaceful, because that's not what they're going for. That's not what they're aiming for. They're trying to use these useful idiots to try to, I guess, send a message or whatever stupid thing. And it's best just to stay inside. If you don't have to go anywhere tomorrow, just don't stay safe, please. And this is what's sad, is that it's the left wing that is so incredibly violent that we have to say these things, and we have to prepare for these things. You know, they say the right wing is violent. They attacked the Capitol building. All right. But yeah, I just hope everybody stays safe tomorrow. Whatever's going on between Israel and Iran, hopefully, like, they just stop. Hopefully they got their punches in on each other and they're happy with that. That would be ideal. But yeah, everybody stay safe. I'm gonna go chill now, drink some water, and hope that the world doesn't descend into further chaos, because it really seems to be. But don't forget to always lead with kindness unless they don't deserve it.